Hello, everyone. In pursuit of helping our ISS community during this pandemic, we have been conducting several interviews with professionals from the field in order to give some tips and strategies for our parents and guardians. Today, I have with me Dr. Sanveen Khan, Principal Clinical Psychologist from PsyConnect. They are a specialist psychology clinic with child development and wellness services seeking to provide holistic therapeutic intervention and assessment for children, adolescents, young adults, and their families. Welcome, Sanveen. Great to have you here with us.
Thanks, Verna.
As you know, there have been so many ups and downs during the extended circuit breaker. All of our students have been doing home-based learning now for all in all 8 weeks. Parents have struggled with trying to balance their work and home lives. On the other hand, students have struggled with spending so much time at home and not being able to see their friends. Today, we would like to focus on our students' safe return to school. What are some aspects of returning back to school that our parents and students can look forward to?
Well, there's several elements to look forward to. And the first and probably most reassuring is the progressive return to familiar routines. The concept of going back to a physical school environment gives a sense of containment and structure for both children and families. For children, school, the physical structure of school represents a place where they receive emotional and social support. A return to what they initially knew as being normal provides them with a sense of safety and emotional containment. So having to stay at home and quickly transition back into, the circuit breaker, that would have been very stressful for adults and needless to say to children as well. Largely because children were subtly given the message that our world is no longer safe and life as we know it doesn't exist for a pocket of time, suggesting that life is no longer predictable. And ultimately, this leads to children feeling that they may no longer have very much control over their lives and even health, which, needless to say, will be a very scary thought for children. Regardless of one's age, people strive to assert controls over their lives. So we do that as adults, going to work, having a sense of financial stability, which then allows us the perception that we can control our lives and shape them to be the way we want them to be. Going back to school for children in all basically means that the world is now safe again. The world as they knew it has returned. It's predictable, and we are in control of our lives and we are in control of our well-being. So with children, going back to school also allows them to return to routine. We know that children respond well to routine. They respond well to structure, and school very much so is an institution that facilitates that for children right from the very beginning of their lives. So apart from the sense of emotional safety and containment, structure, routine, I guess the most exciting part for children will be returning back to school and being able to be with their friends and teachers again.
Isn't that right? Yes. I mean, not only the students miss their friends and teachers, but we also miss them tremendously and looking forward to actually have them back all in the campus.
Yeah.
When considering the transitioning back to school, what tips do you have for our students, or what do you think they should keep in mind that will prepare them for the return?
Well, this is another change. So there will be need for adjustment. Whilst children are returning to school, the circuit breaker is not fully lifted. So there is still a sense of adjustment, a sense of grieving perhaps the life that they previously knew. So it's going to take some time for things to return back to life as we originally knew. Children will need to adjust to the new and evolving normal, if I might say that. So our sense of what normal is evolving day to day. Older children and teenagers may be better equipped to understand that whilst they're returning to school, life may not return to exactly how they knew it right away. There might still be some changes that may need to take place and some changes that may be more permanent than others. Younger children, on the other hand, may not necessarily recognize that, and parents may wish to want to have conversations, and I want to emphasize on conversations rather than a conversation around the upcoming change. Some of the questions or some of the areas that they might want to emphasize on would be, what do these phases mean? How are these phases going to affect their lives? What is change? What is adjustment? How long do we typically take to respond to change? And how what can we do to help ourselves facilitate our responses to change better? I think it's very helpful for these conversations to happen as a family unit, because it enforces a sense of connection. It also enforces in the eyes of the children that their parents are taking control, and the two adults or the people in their lives who are meant to be the strong figures who know it all are in charge, and they do know what to do, and life is predictable and it's safe. It's important to emphasize and also understand, though, that parents themselves are experiencing this change, right? And what we do know is that change and loss goes hand in hand. They're not independent of each other. Children have grieved the life that they had and may continue to do so for a little while. And what makes this process even more complex at present is that children are still adjusting. It's only been a couple of weeks since we transitioned into the circuit breaker, and now we're transitioning out. So I would say we haven't completely adjusted to this new normal, and now we're readjusting again. So there will be compounded anxieties, there will be compounded frustrations, and we may need to be a lot more sensitive to this than we previously were before.
Exactly. But do you think our students will see a new normal or new ways of doing things when they return from 2nd of June onwards in a staggered manner?
Yes, I do. I do think that human beings are very resilient, children more so than adults. They bounce back a lot more quickly than adults. But as with students, I think everyone presently is going through change. So they're going to need time to understand, to process, and to adjust to the new normal. And recognizing that transitioning back to school can be broken down into many parts, understanding. So lots of conversations happening on that end, processing, giving them time to experience their feelings and working through with their feelings. And then the last component being adjusting, where there's a sense of acceptance around the new normal.
That's right. But if a student is feeling a little worried about returning to school, what advice would you give them so that the transition can be as smooth as possible?
I would start by explaining the concept of change, and again, the idea that change and loss, they are experiences that happen together. I would explore their feelings around this change. Each person responds to change and has various emotional reactions, so it's safe not to assume that everyone is going through the same thing or the same set of feelings at the same time. I would assist the child in labeling their emotions, and more importantly, understanding what they're feeling. It's likely to be grief, but even grief comprises of 5 different processes. So just to expand on grief a little bit, it's a very complex emotion that comprises of sadness, anger, denial, bargaining, and acceptance. And we don't move through these phases again in a very linear fashion. It's likely that we would jump from one process to another, and there might be times that we jump back into a process that we think that we've already worked through. And because we're bouncing back and forth on these processes, we're likely to experience more frustration before we're able to fully accept and adjust to a new normal. So I think it will be helpful to explain this process to a child so that it normalizes the frustrations that they're feeling, and to be sensitive to their experiences, to walk them through the emotions as and when they arise.
That's true, because everyone actually experienced this in a very different way.
Yeah.
So this, exactly. So, but what's one thing that you would like to share with our parents, considering that they've all managed to keep up with their own work and family needs, all in a balanced way during the extended circuit breaker?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important message for parents is to be kind to themselves. They've put so much pressure on themselves to be emotionally and physically present for their children, to take on additional roles as teachers to facilitate home-based learning, whilst also maintaining and following through with their responsibilities through work. So they've done an tremendously wonderful job, and understanding that they too have been adjusting all along. So, they haven't been free of any of the emotions that their children have also been experiencing. It's been very stressful on parents. So the first thing is to recognize that you too are adjusting, and you too need time to understand, process, and adjust, just like your children. And above and beyond that, change and loss goes hand in hand. So if you are experiencing change, you're possibly grieving too.
Thank you very much. But how can we ensure, my last question, that our students' mental health will continue to be our top priority upon return to school?
Yeah. Have lots of conversations. Talking about our experiences allows us to process our thoughts and emotions. And talking out aloud doesn't necessarily have to be in the clinic setting. It can be at home over dinner. It can be conversations with friends, conversations with teachers. So the more we talk about things, the more we normalize emotional experiences. And children are always listening. They're always, they're little sponges, kind of taking up everything that the world has to offer them. So talking out loud in the classroom, or even with our peers, allows us to mentalize. And mentalization is a process that allows us to make sense of each other. So I can make sense of my feelings by comparing it and bouncing off ideas with somebody else. It's a profound social construct, and above and beyond, it allows us to normalize experiences. So for children, they will soon realize that they're not the only ones that are going through these processes, and that there is support out there. And the support may just lie in their social circles or in the environments within which they reside. It's important to remember that we all grieve differently, as you said so earlier on. So some children are going to adjust to a new normal very quickly, while others may take a little bit longer. And we need to focus on the fact that they are adjusting and not how long they're taking to adjust. The time frame is important, but recognizing that we've had so many adjustments in a short period of time, I think the emphasis, if we were to reframe that to, is the child demonstrating progress, week after week in terms of adjustment? If they are, that's great. If they're not and they're stuck, then we might need to pay a little bit more attention from a clinical perspective on that child. And then that brings me to my my next point around noticing that emotions can also be experienced or displayed in the form of behavior. So children might not necessarily say that they're feeling anxious or they're feeling angry, but they might display certain behaviors, clinginess, more temper tantrums, disruption in sleep patterns. So their behaviors may be indicators for parents and teachers that they're not adjusting well, and they need additional support to work through their feelings. And above and beyond everything else, I think the most important point is to never shy away from help. There are so many community resources that have been made available in this point in time, that are available through various platforms online. I've seen so many parent support groups pop up via social media as well. So I think we do need to be open and recognize that support is available in various shapes and forms.
We have been actually providing our parents community with a lot of helpful links and websites, or the clinics that are actually remained open during the circuit, and they have been making use of that. So we are very happy that we don't really have parents who are shying away from getting the help that they require. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sanveen.
Thank you.
It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and we are just hoping that maybe all come out of this storm healthier, stronger, and with strengthened resilience. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanveen. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.